Occupied Territories Bill.
Thank you very much. Yeah, last year I tabled the Occupied Territories Bill, and there's no doubt about it, it's a historic piece of legislation which would make Ireland the first EU country to end trade in goods produced in illegal settlements in the occupied territories, including the Palestinian West Bank. It's gathered the attention of the whole world, and earlier this year I presented the bill at the United Nations in New York as a way Ireland can chart a path in support of Palestinian human rights. It's a modest but important bill tabled with the support of SADACA, Trócaire, Christian Aid, the Irish Congress of Trade Unions and Amnesty International. At its heart, it says that if certain goods have been produced as a result of war crimes, as a result of clear breaches of international law, then we should not be trading in them. Irish commercial activity should not be paying for an occupation which we have been condemning for years. I believe in Ireland's history of standing up for international justice and human rights. I believe that actions speak louder than words, and so I tabled the bill in that spirit. The Occupied Territories Bill now has cross-party support from the entire opposition. We have the Green Party, Social Democrats, Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, the Labour Party, Solidarity, People Before Profit, and a huge number of independents. With that support, the bill has won votes with massive majorities, first in the Seanad and now in the Dáil. But the government are doing everything they can to block with a money message. And just like Breed's bill, the government are abusing a constitutional provision. They make absurd claims of extremely minor administrative costs, such as the time of civil servants in a government department or the time of customs officers. The figures just don't add up, and it's very clear this is just a political tactic to rely on when they don't like how the Dáil votes. This is anti-democratic and I believe unconstitutional. It must be resisted, and the key message here today is that we can fix it. The government are trying to hand themselves a veto over democratically elected parliament, but a simple amendment to the Dáil rules can clarify that they don't have one. Jerry Liston and Conor O'Neill from my office have done extensive work on this. We have a change already, and they'd be happy to answer any questions they're here today. So what we need now is political support, and we're asking, please talk to your TDs, tell them to stand up for democracy and amend the money message provision when the Dáil returns in September, and we can get these vital bills passed.
Free, free
Palestine!
Free, free
Palestine!
Free, free
Palestine!
Free, free
Palestine!
So we're going to continue on talking about the Occupied Territories Bill, and this time with Solicitor Jerry Liston from SADACA. So if you want to come over.
Thanks, Tim. I'll just follow on from some of what Francis said about the manner in which the government is blocking the bill. Francis, you mentioned the administrative costs that the government has referred to. It's also made such spurious claims as the fact that we wouldn't have the money to fund the prison service that would be required to implement the Occupied Territories Bill. They've also said that the fines amounting to tens of millions of euro that would be imposed by the European courts justify a money message. That claim is so lacking in legal foundation that it just has to be made disingenuously. There's no way they could honestly believe what they're saying. But I could rant for the 3 minutes that I've been given about the position that the government's been taking, but it's more important here today, as Francis mentioned, that we focus on solutions. And actually, the solution to this issue is not as difficult as it may seem. The problem, and I have an opinion which I've scribbled my notes on, of Senator Michael McDowell on the application of the money message, or the fact that there is no requirement for a money message in relation to the Occupied Territories Bill. What he also points out is that the solution is very simply an amendment to the standing orders, and crucially that doesn't require any involvement of the government. So this is actually something that the Dáil, the opposition TDs, who are the same opposition TDs who've got all the bills that we're in support of here today to where they are, that same majority of TDs could come together and pass an amendment to the standing orders. So there's been some talk, I know, and having a background in law myself, I totally understand the appetite for marching down to the forecourts and taking this on before a judge, but there has been some mention of that possibility. But my plea today would really be to focus on an amendment to the standing orders. It would take so much less time than a trip down to the forecourts, which is inevitably going to delay the process. And the concern would be that some TDs might say, you know, if there were proceedings contemplated down in the courts, let's wait and see what happens down in the courts before we amend the standing orders. Whereas if we just go straight for the standing orders and amend them, a quick surgical amendment to Standing Order 179, that would unlock the blockage that's facing all of the bills that we're here campaigning in support of today. And if there are some TDs who might be concerned about what the effect of any such amendment might be, really all we're asking is something extremely modest. It's just to bring the standing orders back into line with the Constitution. It's a really, really modest ask that's not going to open up the floodgates in any significant way. It's just going to allow democracy to function as it has been intended to function behind me here. So, as I said, my plea today would be that we'd all come together and focus on the same solution to this problem, which is getting behind an amendment to standing orders. And as Francis said, I'd be more than happy to, I've been obsessed with this issue for about 6 months, and I'd be more than happy to talk to people afterwards who might be interested. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Can I get Deputy Jan O'Sullivan from Labour?
Good evening, everybody. We live in a democracy, and we're here to fight for that democracy. And I'm one of the over 50